So I had this idea. I recently just purchased a handful of brand new discs, and I wanted to see how the discs fly compared to what the manufacturers say the discs are going to do. So one of the things I wanted to account for when doing this test is the wind conditions. Now I know that's going to affect the disc, either making it understable or overstable. So we actually do have a 10-mile-an-hour tailwind, which is not the best day to do this test, but we're out here and we're gonna have some fun and see what happens. So I'm gonna throw the disc, we're gonna record it, and then Esther is going to mark it on the piece of paper and see where it lands, and see if we can get any good takeaways, and in the very least, we'll just get better at playing disc golf. The first disc I wanna test out is the Star Destroyer. Now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna make sure that I throw the disc flat, as flat as possible, and I'm gonna aim straight for the pin. So I'm not trying to compensate or like throw it left or right or turn it Anheuser or hyzer. I'm just gonna throw it about 80% speed and exactly straight. Now, according to the flight plan for this disc, it should just cut from right to left. So we'll see what happens. The next disc we have here is the Star Wraith. So compared to the Destroyer, I'm expecting that this disc is gonna fly a little straighter for a little longer. It's actually a slower disc. I'm gonna try to, again, throw it about 80% speed and as flat as possible. All right, so now that we threw the discs, we are gonna go down here and find out where they landed in relation to the other discs, and then mark them here on the chart, as well as kind of record what we remember the flight path to be. Okay, so we're at the Star Destroyer right now. Like I said, it landed about where I thought it was gonna land, and now we're gonna mark it here on the piece of paper. All right, cool. We're gonna go to the rest of the discs, find out where they landed, and then we'll go back to the studio and analyze it. All right, so the second disc we threw was the Star Wraith. Again, it pretty much did exactly what I thought it was gonna do. It flew a lot straighter than the Star Destroyer, so it didn't cut back left as fast. Especially in the tailwind, I was a little bit surprised. So we're gonna go ahead and mark this. It was just a little bit further than the Star Destroyer, and a lot straighter. Awesome, so we'll take all this information, go back to the studio, and compare them to the manufacturer's flight path. All right, now that we're back at the house in the studio, we're gonna look at some of this footage, and I'm gonna see what I can take away. One of the first things I noticed after reviewing the footage, looking at how I threw it, is that this is actually a fairly overstable disc. Now I understand we had the headwind situation going, but this is a pretty overstable disc, at least for me and for my arm. I mean, I'm not one of those big arm, 400, 500 foot, throwing kind of player. So I realized even at 80%, in a tailwind, I couldn't get to this basket unless I really put a lot on it. Now, if I had, a more understable disc, which I do in my bag, I could throw it past this, no problem. So it was really cool to see this compared to the charts that are provided by the manufacturers. But out of the gate, it looks like it did exactly what it was designed to do. Now, I could imagine if there was a headwind, it probably would have flown straight a little bit longer and then cut at the end. But this did pretty much exactly what I expected to. And by doing this test, it just gave me a lot more confidence in this new disc that I got. So let's go take a look at the Destroyer. After reviewing the footage of the throw, I do realize that I kind of threw it out to the right. And I think I did that naturally because of where the pin position was. I also put a little bit of hyzer on it. So this was not the best test. But with all that being said, it seems like it flew very similar to the Destroyer. And actually, before I actually got home and looked at the flight path and everything, it's like almost identical to the Destroyer. It's just a little bit slower. So it makes more sense now. So both of those discs actually ended up landing very close together and had a very similar flight path. So if we compare both the discs together, it's almost exactly how the manufacturer said they were going to fly. And I believe I have a lot of confidence in these discs. Now with the Wraith, I do think that I would actually throw that on this hole if I had a headwind, and I think it would work out pretty good. But this was just a fun exercise, a fun test to see really how my disc would fly. So I ended up throwing all the new discs that I got recently, and they actually flew according to what the manufacturer said. And not only that, but I was able to get the experience and learn for myself how they were going to fly. So this was just a fun little project. I don't claim to be a pro or know it all. I'm sure you guys can pick this apart and tell me everything that I'm doing wrong. I would love to learn. But this was just a fun little project. Hope you enjoy. And if you're ever getting out at Mountain Pride and playing disc golf, I'd love to play with you. Just really getting into it. So looking for any opportunity to learn and get better at the sport. You guys have a good one.